Hi, it's Lisa Rigas with another episode of the Successful Single Mother TV. This episode is very dear to my heart, and it's a quote that I go around saying all the time to other parents, and I get the most reaction to. So I thought that I would talk about this particular topic on today's show. And this actually, I'm going to tell you about a quote, and this actual quote comes from Martin Luther King, and it goes like this: "Your children need your presence more than your presence." So let's say that again. Your children need your presence more than your presence. And that is a very profound quote, and especially in today's society, I think that our lives have become so overstimulating, and we're running around ragged. Everybody's going in different directions, and I think there's almost two parts to that quote. You have the presence, which I feel has been to the wayside a lot in many people's lives, and it seems as if our lives are getting busier and busier and busier, and now both parents are pretty much expected to work, both of them later hours. Kids not only go to school all different times for different ages, then they're off doing multiple activities, then the incorporation of all of the electronics between the iPhones and the iPads and the computers and the texting. It's just insane that you almost wonder, when does anybody have a conversation with each other anymore, especially in families and households. And it actually can become quite a problem. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. It's something that I speak on quite often, and is the topic of presence. And I want to talk about a scenario that possibly happens to you or has happened in the past, because I know it's happened to me. Have you ever, let's say you've been driving in the car and your son or daughter is sitting next to you, and they start telling you about something that happened that was really exciting that happened to them during the day at school, and a couple minutes goes by and you realize that you haven't even heard a word that they've said? And that your child is either saying, "Right, Mom?" or "Did you hear that, Mom?" And you realize that the entire time they've been talking, your mind has been worried about what you're going to make for dinner that day, or when and how you're going to get a project finished for work, and so on and so on. So you were completely not present in that conversation at all with your child. And do you think that your child doesn't realize that? And the implications of not being present with your children is just enormous, because anybody can feel when they're not being paid attention to. I know that you've probably had situations where you've been telling a story or talking to somebody else, and you've realized that they have drifted off and that they're not quite listening to what you're saying, or you've lost eye contact with that person. They're kind of looking here and there, and you realize that they've lost interest in the conversation and they're not present anymore. That makes a bigger impact in a child, because when a child is trying to have a conversation with a parent and they realize that the parent isn't paying attention to them, they don't think that you care about what they have to say. And that's pretty much how they take it. Now, you may not, that obviously may not be the case. You may just have had random thoughts come into your head that just kind of took over while your daughter was telling you about the fact that she got an A on her spelling test and how excited she was. But your daughter doesn't know the stories that are running in your head and why you were taken away from being present with her. And all that she can rationalize is that, well, Mommy must not care about what I have to say. And more this is happening because as parents, we're becoming busier and busier. And our children are living lives that are more distracted. Like I said, between electronics and activities, they're just as distracted as well. But a parent needs to understand how important presence really is in a child's life. And so what I wanted to do is give you some strategies that you can use to help be more present with your children. And some of these strategies, they're not all of the strategies, they're just some ideas on ways that can directly affect the way a child feels when they're with you. And that feeling that mom and dad really want to be with me in this moment. They really want to hear what I have to say. And so these are some of the strategies that I've implemented in my life that have really made an impact with my children. The first one is when your child needs to tell you something. Let's just say that you are cooking dinner and your son comes running into the kitchen and you have one hand with the oven mitt on and the other one is holding, the spoon, and you're stirring and you're trying to get dinner on the table. You're hungry, they're hungry. Your child comes running in the room with this big smile on his face and he's like, guess what, guess what, guess what? I turned in my project and I wanted to tell you about what the teacher said today. You want to do two things in a situation like this, because obviously you're in the middle of something that you're doing right now, but you don't want your child to think that you don't care about what they have to say and you're not excited to hear about what they say. So do one of two things. First thing is either stop what you're doing, take your oven mitt on, put the spoon down, turn to your child, make eye contact with your child, and ask them to tell you the good news. Okay? If that's not feasible to do, if what you're doing in the moment has to continue, then turn to your child, look them in the eye, and let them know, I am in the middle of doing something right now. I'm cooking dinner, as you can see. Is it okay with you if in 3 minutes, as soon as I get to a point where I can stop, that I sit down and listen to your great news? So now you're not creating confusion. You're not cooking dinner while telling your child to go ahead and tell you their great day, because obviously you're not going to be looking at them when they're telling you the story. You're going to be looking down at your food and you're going and you're stirring the pasta and you got your hand in the So you're not really being present with them. And doing a behavior such as that can just cause harm, and that child might not feel that you really care about what they're saying. So either stop what you're doing, put it down, and then look at your child. Make sure you always make eye contact with them, and make sure you allow yourself enough time to hear their whole story, or just ask them if you can sit down with them in a few minutes when you get a place to break. That way they learn to respect your time as well, and not that you're just going to drop everything at any moment's notice to hear what they have to say either, because that's not creating respect for time either. So the second thing is, whenever possible, try to leave your cell phone in the car when you're going shopping with your child. So let's say you're going to the grocery store and you take your daughter with you. You can deal without your phone for 45 minutes. Okay? People can wait. I mean, in the old days, we had a voicemail machine at home and we checked it when we got home from work. So people can wait. But during the time that you're in the grocery store, your son or daughter realizes that they have that mommy and me time, and mommy's not distracted with text messages and phone calls ringing inside her purse, and she's reaching down and grabbing it and talking on the phone in the store and pushing the cart while her daughter's standing next to her. Give your child that time when you're shopping together. Just talk about school, talk about the day, and just leave your phone in the car. Maybe they'll start to do the same as well if they have a cell phone. And you just recognize that that could be time that you have together when you have to do an errand that, might not necessarily be the most exciting thing under the world, but you now have developed some time alone with your child, and it can, fit into a busy life. So, third thing is go outside and play. Just go outside and play with your kids. Whether that is, riding a bike, taking a walk, playing tennis, anything. Even if it's for 5 minutes, it gets everybody away from all the distractions in the house. It gets you away from your phone, and it just creates time outdoors in the fresh air, in the sunshine. And something about the outdoors, it just creates like bonding time. And like I said, it's just a very simple pleasure, but just going outside and playing with them, that's the presence. They remember you being with them more than what you do for them. That's something really to take to heart. So they're going to remember the times that you were throwing the football and trying to play basketball and missing the hoop, or walking down the street and seeing the turtle cross the road. they're going to remember that so much more than anything else. That's their time with you. So the fourth thing is leave time at the end of the day and plan for it. So what I do is I have 3 children, and at the end of the day I leave a bare minimum of 5 minutes for each child. So my schedule is pretty busy, and there's not that much time at the end of the day, and I recognize that if I spend one-on-one time at the end of the day with each one of my children, who are 3 different ages by the way, they feel that they've just had that bonding time with me at the end of the day, like that closure. You know, we talk about how our day was, and you know, if there's anything that comes up, and we sit in the dark room and we just chill. You know, we either lay in the bed, or you know, it's just that bonding time. And you'd be amazed at what they'll tell you if you just give them the time. And I know that some of your kids may be busy too, whether they're finishing their Xbox or whatever, but expect this time from them also, and make it a priority. So if they go to bed at 9 o'clock, come in there around 8:50 and remind them to go brush their teeth, and when they're done brushing their teeth, that you'll be in their room waiting for them, and sit down and just, like I said, just ask them about their day, and you know, ask them, you know, I usually have one question. I'll say, so what's the most exciting thing that happened at school today? And you know, you'll be amazed at how they ramble at the end of the night, and it's just kind of fun, and you get to kind of, you know, hear some of the things that went on their day. And even my son, who's older, in high school, when I ask him that question, I'll get all kinds of answers about exciting things that have happened, you know, between him and his girlfriend, or the dance that's coming up, and they just start to ramble at the end of the day. So, but prioritize that day with each one of your children. Don't give any one of them more or less time. Be equal, because they do catch on to that also. You'll see that if you spend time with each one of them and a little more than the other, they even feel that. They're like, oh gosh, you spent time with, you know, her, more time with her than you did with me, you know. So make sure it's even, and you just love that time of day, but make sure you make it a priority and plan for it, and expect it every single night, and you'll see how fast they grow to expect that as well. And then the fifth thing, and this is something that I do all the time, is turn off the radio in your car. And you will just crack up at all the different things that happen when you turn the radio off. Because many times we get in the car, first thing we do is pop on that radio, and everybody gets quiet, and you know, the biggest concern is what's playing on each station, you know, so you get the station flipping going on, right? But if you turn it off, then actually, you'd be amazed, they actually have to talk, right? They're encouraged because they may not like the dead air. So it's amazing, though, all of a sudden they'll just start rambling and talking, or you can ask them questions, and now the radio's not on to be distracted. So it's just amazing. I have some of my best conversations with my children driving places to and from wherever we have to go, just by having the radio off. And as soon as, you know, we turn that radio back on, everybody's focus is all over the place. But when that radio is off, which I try to do as much as I can, they start talking to each other, we start talking together. It's just wonderful. And so, like I said, I'd encourage you to turn that radio off in the car and start having conversations with your kids.